Morning, everyone. My name's Kim Amy. I'm the chief of staff at the Cayman Science Center. Kate and I are really excited to be here today. Thank you for this opportunity to share our exciting plans for our riverfront. So I just wanted to start by sharing a little bit about the Science Center. We are the most visited museum in Pittsburgh. And I know you've all heard about our recent name change. So last September, we officially changed from Carnegie Science Center to the Daniel G. and Carol L. Cayman Science Center, or Cayman Science Center for short. And although our names changed, our mission remains the same. And that mission is to connect people and science, igniting curiosity that endures for a lifetime. So this gift that we received from the Cayman family, it's a historic gift. It was $65 million. We received $15 million of that initially up front, and the remaining 50 will be paid at a later date down the road as a bequest. So we have this $15 million, and we want to use it to maximum benefit to reinvest in our museum for the people of this region. And so the very first thing that we're doing with this tremendous gift that we received is to think about what's going on inside our four walls. But I'm here today to talk to you about what's happening outside. Before I get to that, though, I just thought I would share quickly. In the next 3 years, we're planning to tackle nearly 75% of our gallery space. So refreshing most of our galleries inside the building. We've already opened a new Fab Lab and a new sports exhibit that happened in 2025. This year, in 2026, we're opening a small temporary exhibit on the local impacts of climate change. And this summer, we have a really exciting experience opening called The Science of Speed. For those of you who are familiar with our campus, we have a red building that sits on our campus next to our main building. That building used to be the old Sportsworks building. We are reimagining that space as a Science of Speed, a multi-level go-kart track experience with an interactive exhibit on science and technology behind automobile and motorcycle racing, as well as some really cool high-performance vehicles on display, and a restaurant lounge. All of that can happen in that building. And what's really cool about that, and one of the things we're trying to do at the Science Center, I think everyone thinks that the Science Center is a great place for kids and families. We also want adults to feel like they belong there and can come and enjoy evening out. And so we think Science of Speed can do that. So this plays kind of into our larger vision for our campus, of which the riverfront is a part. So beyond Science of Speed, we've also got some cool experiences open, and that opens in August. Beyond that, we've got some cool experiences opening about the observable universe, cool art science installation that we're going to be installing later this year, an exhibit on the trades, and a new exhibit for our littlest learners. So we're taking this money that we received and really investing it in our museum. But like I said, we're not just focused on what's going on inside. What's going on outside is just as important. We have a 12-acre campus, and we're situated right on the banks of the Ohio River. So we're really lucky to be in that position, and we're positioned to make a really great positive impact, not just for our location, but for the neighbors in the downtown. So before I get into our riverfront plans, I thought I should mention that in addition to our riverfront and what goes on inside our museum, we are also stewards of the largest object in the Carnegie Museum's collection, which is the USS Raekwon submarine. It is 312 feet long and about 1,600 tons. And it sits right there on the banks of the Ohio River. It was actually the first exhibit to ever open at the Science Center in our location. It came to Pittsburgh in 1990, and it opened a full year before we opened our doors in 1991. Served as the Navy's first radar picket submarine during the Cold War. It was commissioned right at the end of World War II. So it's a historic object in our care that we want to preserve and restore. And as we think about our riverfront, we're thinking about it holistically. So what happens to the submarine? What happens to the riverfront? So it's one unified project. This slide is meant to just illustrate something you all know, how our urban waterways are both uniquely valuable and uniquely challenged. You know, we're on the banks of the Ohio, which provides drinking water for 5 million people. And it's also consistently ranked one of the most polluted or endangered rivers. And we're lucky to be situated where we are, and we think we can make a positive impact. We want to do our share at the Science Museum. We think there's an important opportunity for education as well as stewardship of the land and water. So that's really what's driving us to think about these projects, taking care of this location in the city and the waterways, as well as thinking about integrating the submarines. So many of you may know this interesting fact. At our location, back in the 1800s, there were islands in the river. So as our design team, LBA, Landscape Architecture, also formerly known as LaQuatra Bonsi Associates, they've been working with us for over 10 years, thinking about our riverfront, thinking about a master plan. This and they're looking back to the past for inspiration as well as the future, thinking about climate resiliency and what we can do to improve the ecosystem there. So I just wanted to show you that's kind of a cool fact. It's helping to influence our design. So back in 2023, we started a schematic design process. We had been lucky enough to receive some trail development funds. And so we kicked off Design Charrette, where we invited some stakeholders, Friends of the Riverfront, I know is part of that, as well as others, River Life, Sports and Exhibition Authority, Venture Outdoors. We had a great group to kick off that Design Charrette, and we all imagined or had a vision for what we could do to improve this piece of riverfront. And so these are the 4 high-level conceptual design goals: ecology and natural systems, activation and use, safety and mobility, and elimination. And I should pause here and mention, too, that the riverfront is not entirely controlled by the Science Center or Carnegie Museums. We share a border with, it had been the Sports and Exhibition Authority of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. They had taken that land, in the late 90s, early 2000s, as they were thinking about development of the entire North Shore Riverfront Park. The Science Center was to be a piece of that master plan development, but at the time, the Science Center had its own expansion plans. And so it made sense that they would address the riverfront separately rather than as part of that plan. And so if you're down there ever, you can see where North Shore Riverfront Park stopped and where the Science Center started. And you can also see right on the western side where the casino development started and the Science Center stopped. So there's this piece that's sort of frozen in time that we're trying to address. But we share that now with the city of Pittsburgh because SK has just transferred control of the property back to the city. So this will absolutely be a collaborative process, open, transparent, working with lots of partners. So I just have a series of precedent images to show to sort of illustrate those high-level concepts, design concepts. So this first one is about pedestrian safety using bifurcated promenade and trail systems. So one of the things that emerged from the charrette and that we see every day in this location is that the trail is very narrow and we have a lot of traffic on it. And some are pedestrians with their kids. Some are bicycles zooming through, and there are some hills there, so that makes blind spots coming around. We have some wildlife. We have geese. We have some raccoons nesting on our submarine recently, and those animals can get injured by bicycles zooming through, and people can get injured. Our Animals and Habitats team have rescued little geese and tried to take care of them, nurse them back to health after an encounter with a bike going by. So one of the problems we want to solve is separate the slower moving traffic from the faster moving traffic. And an idea to do that is to separate the trail out, have an upper promenade where our visitors and the public can move through at more leisurely pace, and then let the lower trail serve as a place for faster moving bicycles. Precedent image is to illustrate immersive ecological spaces. I would say in addition to safety, the other biggest theme that emerged out of our charrette was a desire to restore sort of the natural habitat to create a respite in our urban core for people to go and rest and have nature surrounding them. So these are some of the images that have inspired us in the early design. Another goal we have is to create boating facility docks for recreational boats and kayaks along the river. And you'll see, I'll get to this later, sort of the plans for the submarine kind of have a nice natural connection where there's some docking that will be necessary for that and pilings that we can take advantage of and build docks perhaps around them. So we have a grant from the PA Fish and Boat Commission to study this more and figure out sort of the optimal plan for this in the context of the greater plan. Here's another precedent image. This is a really exciting feature that's sort of newer to our planning effort, and that's the idea of a floating wetland. And this sort of echoes those old islands in the river that I mentioned early on. It's a way to handle pollutants before they even reach the river. So studies through Yale Environment 360 study said that 1 acre of floating wetland can absorb the nutrient pollution from 7 to 15 acres of urban development. They filter contaminants and take up excess agricultural nutrients that can lead to algal blooms and dead zones. So we're studying whether these can be implemented in the river. Here's a precedent image from the National Aquarium in Baltimore, where they've already put this into practice. And this is really cool for reasons, not just for those environmental reasons that I named, but because it provides free access out on the river for people to get close to the river. It provides habitats for, wildlife. In Baltimore, after this was planted, they saw pretty quickly crabs, eels, dragonflies, turtles starting to nest on the wetlands. And then eventually sea otters came. So we feel like it's a really great opportunity for public education to get people connected to the river and create habitats. I'm going to switch gears quickly, just as a nod to the submarine. I kind of referenced this earlier, but we have been exploring the best way to restore the USS Raquin submarine. As I mentioned, it arrived in Pittsburgh in 1990. It is now dry docked since, so it needs a lot of work. And
What happened? Oh.
back at
Please make sure you're muted if you're online.
there we go. Thank you. So one of the solutions we've explored is called a strand jack solution. So one of the things we explored was, do we tow the Raquin into a dry dock somewhere hundreds of miles away and then have it fixed, bring it back? That would cost millions of dollars, $1 million each way just to tow. So we shifted our focus and thought, is there a way we can do it on site? And we found this technology working with a marine engineer, Hersack and Wormfeld, where we drive pilings into the river and build a saddle, basically like a cradle, and then hoist the submarine up out of the river. And the added benefit to this, in addition to it being less expensive, it's also, I think, pretty cool to watch and provides a really great educational, interpretive opportunity around engineering of this vessel. And then also we're exploring whether we can leave the submarine elevated out of the water permanently. And that solves the problem of ongoing corrosion, because when it's in the river, and that's sort of the problem we're facing now, it's just slowly being corroded over time. And so that comes with higher maintenance costs. So of course, we're looking to preserve this over the long run. And we think that this is the option that we're going to pursue. So that brings with it great opportunities for the docks. So here you can see an artist's rendering of what this riverfront plan looks like. So you can see the submarine there centered. Underneath it are the floating wetlands. Now that may not actually be realistic because of flooding conditions. This is just an early concept. But the point is that you can have those wetlands around the submarine to give people a chance to walk through them, get up to the boat, and because the boat is inherently not accessible, right? If anyone's ever gone on a submarine before, first of all, the stairs down into it are very steep. You have to climb through portals. It's just very difficult to get through, even with someone with full mobility. So our goal would be to bring people closer to the submarine through the series of docks and floating wetlands. There's a hint at a connection to the Science Center Museum building. That piece that you see there connecting across the riverfront trail to the building does not exist today. Again, that's just a concept about a possible future, addition to the building. But the good news is there's actually another opportunity to connect it, further east to an existing gallery that we're going to study as well. That would solve some operational challenges for us as a museum and provide a cool experience inside the museum to interpret the submarine for people who can't go on it. So if you can imagine, you're in this gallery, you see some cool experiences about the sub, and then you could cross that bridge if you're able and get across to see and go into the submarine and tour it. The bifurcated trail you can see connected to sort of the Science Center building there at the top where you've got people walking around. There's kind of that circle cut out. Wait to it right here. But this is the upper promenade, and then the lower would be for trail traffic. And then there's hints of, little decks and pods throughout that can be used for educational programs. I just have a series of renderings to show you, just to give you a taste of what it could be. The submarine shown here is about 9 feet above the water, but that could change. That's all being studied right now. We're in the schematic design phase right now, so there's a lot more engineering and design work to be done. Yeah. And like in Baltimore, what's really nice about this is it brings our museum outside and without an admission fee. You can come and explore this area, see the wildlife, get up close to the submarine. You don't have to worry about buying a ticket to the museum. So we really want to bring the museum outside to our neighbors and people of Pittsburgh and this region. And finally, this last slide. And like I said, where we are right now, we're nearing the end of our schematic design phase. And it's moving in parallel. So we have LBA, Landscape Architecture, working on riverfront plans. We have Persack and Wormfeld working on submarine plans, both in the schematic design phase. The goal is to unify everything by the end of this. We are going to continue to advance design efforts after this phase, but we do need to raise money. I started by talking about the Cayman gift because it sounds like a lot of money, but when you're reinvesting that back into the museum, and then you have a project of this magnitude, we will still need to raise money to get this done. But what's nice about the gift from the Cayman family is it does give us funds that we can help leverage public funding. So we have match, for example, we can go out and seek some public funds to advance planning and put up some match. So it allows us to be more flexible that way, which is really great. I mean, right now we're estimating that this would be about a $20 million project, but that is very, very preliminary. And the way that construction costs are, I would not be surprised if that was much higher. We expect to have a better estimate at the end of this phase. But I just wanted to say in conclusion, this is really important to us as a museum. As I mentioned, we've been working with LBA for a long time with master planning for our campus. We feel like a responsibility to take care of this, steward this land and water, and to educate the public about it. We're really excited about the opportunities for partnership and collaboration around it. And so I would just say if anyone wants to talk to me after, I brought business cards. I can leave them with you, Leanne, and you can feel free to reach out because we welcome input, feedback, ideas. We're still early enough on that we'd love to have that. So, all right, that's it.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I was first introduced to Kate and him by a colleague here at SVC, our economic development team. And I'm thinking, why does she think I should contact them? I'm active transportation, they're a science center. But I did follow up and I was like, oh, wow, this is great. So I appreciate you sharing about the project. we'll go ahead and move into a little housekeeping that I forgot to mention earlier. And we'll move into our next presentation from Cormac Taylor. But the housekeeping restrooms, if you need to move out this door, kind of follow along, and they're out in the main lobby. The door should be unlocked. You should be able to come back in. And then after today's meeting, we'll be having pizza. I didn't get that on the agenda because it was our last minute finalization. But at any rate, we'll move into the next presentation. Many of you are aware that SBC has been doing a regional trail development capacity and needs assessment study. And let's stop sharing. I'm going to do this. And so many of you have heard from Cormac Taylor throughout this project, different stages where we were at. And what we're hearing today will be the, I guess, fun.
Sort of near the end.
Almost, right?
Last time to,
Yeah.
how many feedback you have, let us know, thoughts. The report is near final. SBC is reviewing it, so, we can still make changes or additions.
Good, right?
I'll be sharing.
Right.
Yeah, can everybody online see? Oh, everyone's muted. Yeah.
Jim. Yeah, we're good. All right.
As Leanne mentioned, I was here in the fall to talk about the beginning of this study, and many of you in the room have participated. We got some survey responses from this group and participation in our advisory group and focus group. So thank you for that. So this presentation, I'll just kind of, like we mentioned, sort of close the loop on that to kind of talk about some of our findings and what our next steps will be. So the purpose was to identify what the challenges and capacity concerns, needs of our many trail groups in the region, and then explore some potential ways that we can meet those needs and solve some of those challenges. As I mentioned, we got a lot of stakeholder input. We had an advisory group. We met with agencies, county staff, large regional and national trail organizations, and then our local trail organizations. And we also had some other individual meetings with some folks at DCNR, PennDOT, just to kind of learn what other efforts are going on in the area around the state that we could either partner with or learn from. We got a lot of feedback. So just want to run through some of the key findings from the survey. We heard from the chart on the left is who we heard from. So we had a lot of volunteers, staff members, county and municipal staff, consultants. That other category was a lot of different folks. Some of our agency partners fell into that other category, as well as some other folks involved in trails or development that didn't quite fit into those other categories. We asked about the ease of maintaining, improving, developing trail networks. So the responses sort of averaged out a little bit higher than in the middle, higher than average, I guess, a little bit over 3. So not terribly difficult, but not easy either. It's kind of the way we were interpreting that. We asked specifically about administrative and management challenges. So it came down to a lot of things like cost, staff, and volunteer availability were kind of tied for our top responses there, which wasn't really a big surprise. We kind of knew that was going to be a big concern. Engineering and cost for feasibility studies. So just the cost to figure out if a trail roadside is even possible. So we had a lot of good feedback here. The big concerns for costs and people sort of coordinating with staff and volunteers. And then related to actually developing building, managing the trails themselves. You can see far and away property concerns were top there. So negotiating with property owners to acquire property, get easements, that sort of thing. And then, of course, similarly, those same kind of negotiations with utilities and railroads, trail crossings over roadways, especially state roads, I think was kind of the top concern there. And then, plenty of other things there about just permitting, design standards, and then just managing construction and maintenance and equipment. So at the end of the survey, we asked what kind of support these groups, these stakeholders, would be interested in and find most valuable. So beneficial, of course, far away, additional funding that helps get everything else done. But then also assistance with kind of legal and real estate issues and engineering and design. So kind of very technical, professional assistance there. And then what kind of a role would be most helpful as, just a person or serve like a professional person who could help the planner and technical expert, and then liaison for state agency. And it came up with, again, sort of the most valuable type of support that these stakeholders would be interested in or could use. So then we took all of that information, combined the survey with our focus groups and advisory group, came up with this big matrix of the types of needs or gaps that we were seeing in the region. So, and we kind of have them on the left here in larger categories and related to the survey responses. So funding, human resources, planning and management, operations. And then the color on the left is sort of how often we heard it from all those different sources. And then we took that and kind of identified some potential actions to close those gaps. So there's a lot of things, looking to provide assistance, grant writing, funding programs, education, communication. And some of those fall into, some of those actions are like, all of these different rows. So lots of crossover there. And we should go on here. So our big challenges that we found, like I mentioned, coordinating with staff and volunteers, recruitment and retention of those volunteers, and then costs of all of the pieces that go into managing and developing trails, funding again, grant management, and then those sort of property concerns, acquisition and then right of way, crossing state roads, kind of all rose to the top. So again, taking all of that, we look to see what else is being done, who is doing this successfully. So we looked at some similar regions, MPOs, or regions that are collaborating related to trail development and management. And we also looked at some potential, we call them kind of governance structures while we were looking at this. So creating a brand new nonprofit, creating a public authority, and a program just out of SPC, a technical assistance program, and then a coalition. So we'll talk a little bit about those. But essentially, we kind of looked at what these different options are as far as getting funding, what they can actually do to support the groups in the region, and kind of identified whether or not that would actually work here. And what we came down to and what we actually heard from a lot of our stakeholders is that we don't need a new organization. We don't need another 501c3 or a public authority. So really, it kind of came down to what SPC and other partners in the region can do in addition to what they're already doing, essentially. So our proposed outcomes are to kind of work within the structure of SPC and the transportation program here, and consider adding an additional person who can sort of help to coordinate all of these efforts and, develop those robust resources and help to collect all those resources. That was one thing that we heard, is that there are a lot of options out there, but people don't necessarily know where to find them or how to take advantage of them. So sort of creating one centralized hub for those resources, and hopefully utilizing a new position to be dedicated to that. Those were our two big outcomes. And then some other things that we are suggesting in our report to kind of go along with that, support those outcomes, update the long-range plan to have a little bit more dedicated strategies or goals related to trail development specifically, get some more peer learning and networking events together, get this group together, maybe in different ways or more often. Potentially maybe look at the possibility of a regional trail coalition, or, maybe getting more folks involved in the coalitions that already exist, building up that resource center, and then continuing to coordinate with those regional and statewide efforts that are already going on, and work to help identify more funding opportunities, which is an ongoing challenge for all of us. So that's kind of high level where we are. And as we mentioned, all those outcomes in the report and everything is what Leanne and Lily have shared up with you for final review. So we are happy to take, any other input or thoughts here before let's look on it. So you take some questions or
All right. Any questions for Carrie?
So just kind of, I have a question.
yeah.
Should have put my hand up. Sorry.
We'll go ahead online first.
Go ahead, Bree.
This is Breen. The question is, does this work thus far call for a regional trail plan or vision of any kind? And if not, how do we know when we've been successful?
I think that would kind of fall into our outcome of potentially developing a framework for a regional trail coalition. I think that would sort of be a little further down the line.
That was actually one thing we did not hear in the survey or from our regional stakeholders, was that regional plan and the need for it. However, that is one of the benefits that we learned with benchmarking and looking out from all the other regions, that was a very big benefit that they saw having a regional trail coalition or group or one person in charge, is that they could strategically look at the whole region and say, okay, this trail needs the funding next. No, this trail has a bigger gap. This needs the funding. That strategic plan. But we did not hear it from the feedback in this region, really. We saw it in the benchmarking. And but that would be one thing I think definitely that the region as a whole should explore.
Right. And I would add that I think if SBC were to create this position, that would fall to that person. So
Right.
lead that effort.
The same thing with the regional promotion of trails, right? So we didn't hear a lot about that either in the survey or from the focus groups. But we did see a lot of that, the benefit of having like a title, like the circuit trails or some of these like regions that have one name and one promotion, for tourism and all of that. So we saw a lot of that in the benchmarking and like the benefits again of having that, but didn't so much hear it as a need here. So
There.
I'd like to reinforce that. I didn't get the name of who was online, but I'd like
Green.
Green.
I'd like to support that. I understand why it didn't emerge in the surveys, because the surveys were asking individuals and individual trails, what is it that you would like and what is it that is most urgent to you now? But I see enormous benefit from having an overview that the public can see that says here, yeah, there are a lot of trails out there, but how are they connected to each other and how can I stitch them together? So I'd like to support that idea.
Yeah, we did hear, we have a lot of really strong trail groups in the region that are very well established that people know. So we heard a little bit of pushback on, sort of, we didn't want to completely take those identities away. But if there was a way that SPC and this, kind of potential trail coordinator position could just help to promote them all together.
I absolutely agree. There are so many overlays of trail names. I mean, the poor Elijah Furnace Trail has so many different identities that you get confused. And that also detracts from the ability of the individual trails that are doing the work to do their own fundraising if there's some overarching thing that might be attracting money. But I think it's possible to have a vision for how all the pieces fit together without losing track of the pieces.
Yes, right. And I think that is sort of the challenge of making sure that those pieces are still there and, thriving as they are. But to help, it's really more from, I think, a user standpoint of that is how different trail systems or, trails in themselves can connect to each other. So, kind of getting that communication, education side of it as a region, but still, kind of letting those groups stand on their own.
Yeah, if you say, look, you can start on the Montour and transfer to the Panhandle and get to Weirton, that doesn't take away from either the Montour or the Panhandle.
Sure, exactly. Yeah.
Good. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I know we did, Mary, like during a lot of the things, we did talk about the industrial heartlands because that's already like a coalition, even though it's all of like Western PA and a couple of states. But we did talk about that and not creating something that was another layer on that. Almost is like, is it just the southern portion of the IHTC? So we're not like, because like you said, the overlay gets exhausting and it gets hard for the local groups because it's like, I mean, like the Three Rivers, there's like 6 things overlaid onto it.
So again, kind of finding a way to work with those, again, groups that already exist and are well known without kind of losing those smaller groups in that, or making it even more confusing, adding more things on top. So it's kind of a balance, I think, of how to get all those things to work together successfully.
A question from Zach.
So as far as like the coalition, who do you see would be the people that would make it up? Would it be potentially existing group leaders or, because, trails tend to go through a lot of like municipalities. And so like, how would you get a group together that would be effective enough to push have the authority to do that?
I don't have a good answer for that. I hate to sort of keep kicking it down the road, but I think it would sort of fall into whatever this kind of additional programming at SPC would kind of maybe do more of this kind of outreach, talk to all those groups and see how, what the best way to get them to work together is. Which is not easy for sure. And I think to your point, we're talking about like private trail groups, but also municipalities, counties would have to be involved. So yeah, it would be a lot of people to coordinate with.
Well, one thing we heard about the coalitions that was hard was that lack of funding, right? They didn't have money to actually support their efforts. And then like the coalitions are made up of staff that's already very busy doing everything else that they already do. And that's draining, right? So that was like sort of the problem with the coalition is that, it's more time. But I think at like one of these, like if there was or were we talking maybe quarterly or trail group together, like that's something that could be explored is maybe just expanding, like the Industrial Heartland Coalition and getting people to buy in on that and volunteer a certain amount of time to be a part of that and then publicize that. Because one of the benefits of the coalition is that politically it stands out because, politicians say, oh, like, look at all these trails. It's not just this little trail. It's easier to get funding to push things along because it is a bigger organization. So, but yeah, funding it is sort of the big thing. So.
Right.
You on that big grid with all the small print at the bottom, the there was reference to, there we go, that there be a regional strategic plan. So it has been addressed, but that was a low priority in terms of what you have up there.
Yes, not a lot of low priority. We just didn't hear it.
Sure, okay.
So yeah, so green was that we heard it the most, which was lack of available funding at the very top. That was what we heard from everybody. Survey, focus groups, advisory, all those people. At the bottom, the strategic planning, I think they're under where we heard it from was just like research. Like, yeah.
But, you know, you referenced, you know, tourism, we talked about recreation and leisure. One of the things that I hope we don't lose sight of when we're talking about trails is trails as a form of transportation for me to get to the store, for me to get to work, for me to get to my neighbor's house who lives a mile down the way. So we can't lose sight of that because oftentimes people say, oh, a trail, you know, I've been on many trails that go nowhere. It's nice, it's pretty, but you know, it doesn't take me anywhere. There's no food, there are no benches, there's no nothing, there's no there. Just in terms of what's done.
Connect that dot to open up funding opportunities through just the mechanism of the multimodal component, not that it's just a leisure. Yeah.
I'm just saying, don't forget that.
Yeah.
I heard very much so. I want to highlight a couple things that we haven't talked about, and I'm not sure everyone in the room is aware of them, and I'm sorry if you are, but first being, I think you mentioned briefly, this is going to be a component of our long range plan that we're doing right now. So the long range plans historically have not really gone into trails. So that's going to be an emphasis on this long range plan that we'll adopt in 2027 is we're going to have some sort of strategic visioning around trail development opportunities. Also want to just highlight, I think most of you are familiar with the active transportation plan, which is in and of itself, I would say, a strategic plan for trails in the region. It doesn't, necessarily dive into prioritization of trails, but it looks at where there's gaps. It looks at, what areas we could improve in terms of trail development in the region. So I just want to say there's already stuff that we're planning on building on. I don't think we have to start from scratch here. And those are two very important things that we already do.
Okay, we have a couple hands up online. So
Yeah.
those Seth.
Hi everyone, this is Seth Davis from Pittsburgh Regional Transit, and we've coordinated on a couple different trail efforts, specifically through the Friends of the Riverfront. But we were also involved in the ongoing work that was happening with Trust for Public Land, the City of Pittsburgh, and Connect on the Greenways and Park Accelerator effort. I don't know if this group has had discussions with Connect or the City of Pittsburgh. But there was a lot of work that went behind that. And while it was focused on greenways, there were greenways that were potential trails. Specifically, there's work ongoing in the Sawmill Run watershed about some potential changes through there, but itself and seldom seen greenway. There's some trail potential and trying to get those linkages and build on top of it. Just wanted to highlight that.
Any has her own line? Yes. Ted, Josh.
Josh, you're muted if you're asking her.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, thank you. Sorry. Thanks again. Yeah, Lily took one of my first comments, but that's okay because it's good. I totally agree with Lily with respect to, in certain ways, with additional consideration, conflating, trail development in with, the active transportation plan. The long range transportation plan is a good opportunity that, was mentioned. DCNR is another, they do some planning and identification of trail gaps, and they're a group to work with, and, their state plan to plug into. Also, wanted to support the other, comments, one of the just previous comments, notwithstanding the details and the complexities that have been mentioned and the need for individual promotion, in terms of the SPC level, I definitely see an opportunity for kind of leaning into a regional identity of some sort or at different levels, which in and of itself, I think inherently does, support, which was, I think, kind of alluded to, support everybody. But like we here in Indiana County and some of the other, counties in the SPC region, have, or have these identities that we're trying to focus on. And I think that collective of it kind of gives the region a competitive advantage and some identity there.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that through the LTAP, the PennDOT Local Technical Assistance Program, there's a training course for active transportation for PA communities. So, I mean, that's something I've, been coordinating the LTAP program for probably the last 5 years. I've never had anybody request to schedule that course. So that might be something that we schedule here at SPC and its conference room. We would just need 30 people to sign up for it. So if there's, communities or trail groups interested in, active transportation coming straight from PennDOT, as well as the LTAP program provides technical assistance. So we've done pedestrian and bike safety audits through LTAP, where PennDOT connects they're kind of married. But that's another option. I mean, for, obviously up there, $2 down cost of engineering and design. LTAP is a free resource to communities that they can, leverage to get an engineering study potentially accomplished, for a lot lower cost than what they would normally have. So that's through PennDOT. Through PennDOT, you have to coordinate it through us at SPC. Reach out to me. I'll give you my information after the meeting if you want.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of all of these resources that are out there and available, and folks just don't know that they're there. So having some sort of centralized hub to collect all those things. One of the things we did look at as a part of this was creating a technical assistance program, but there are a few out there already. So we don't want this effort to duplicate things that already exist. LTAP has been doing this forever. That's what they do. So kind of how can we just maybe even just be a facilitator? We being SPC, but SPCs can sort of be that facilitator to collect all of these things and have this, potential new person who is the person that the trail groups just call and they say, we have this problem, we need help with X, Y, or Z. And they can say, oh, well, LTAP can do that, or talk to PEC, or talk to, whoever else out there can meet those needs without having to create new things.
Just one quick comment here. A lot of great feedback, great questions. Obviously, this thing isn't figured out completely yet, but Carrie and the SPC team, I think this is a really strong work. Like, this is such a great resource to have as this next kind of like phase in the regional trail development gets underway. So thanks. We're already using it to inform some sessions for our Western Pennsylvania Trail Summit, some other discussions going forward. So it's a really solid benchmark to start from.
Perfect. I'm solid. So we're good. All right. Thanks so much for that presentation, Carrie. It's very informative. All right. So Josh Crew, you'll be up next, and I do have your slides loaded here, or if you want to share.
Okay. No, that's fine. If you've got them, if you want to share them, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see if I can do that. I'm technologically challenged.
Well, maybe together we can figure it out. One of us.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I mean, would it be better so that I could change my own slides? Is that? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you could do that.
All right, no problem. I'll do it right now. Right there. Okay. How's this? Is that good?
Not shared.
It's not sharing?
I see it.
Yeah.
Is everybody able to see this or no? Leanne, can you confirm for me?
We're getting there, Josh. All right. I don't know. It doesn't look shared.
What he's sharing.
Oh, that's right. You're sharing. Yes. Okay. We can see that, Josh.
Okay, great. and thank you. I think a pretty good segue into this discussion. Trails is definitely part of this, and appreciate the opportunity to present here. Try to keep it relatively brief. I think I have like 18 slides, but I'll try to focus where we need to. I did present very similar presentation to TTC in December. Appreciate that invitation as well, and thanks for coordinating this and for hosting for SPC and Leanne, for hosting these for all the years. Definitely appreciate this opportunity to learn, and in this case to share some of the work that we're doing here in Indiana County. Just as to share some anecdotes to help promote what we are in fact doing, and hopefully as good planning, and to give some insights and maybe food for thought for all of our partners here. So thank you. So just briefly, Indiana County, about 50 miles northeast of Pittsburgh. We have no interstates through Indiana County, but we do have US 22, east-west, US 119, north-south, as well as Route 422. And, we're just touched by 219, north-south also. Roughly 83,000 folks. This is pretty accurate data. It's a little dated. The key point on this slide is that a lot of folks do drive alone. Interesting, since COVID, this percentage has showed up in the work at home. So that's a consideration for planning. That pre-COVID, those numbers were typically, at least in Indiana County, negligible. Less than 1% biking to work, despite all of what we do here to promote and to try to provide those types of opportunities. 6.3% walked. A lot of that can be attributed to Indiana Borough and some of our other small towns and boroughs. But point being is, despite all the work that I'm going to discuss, there's still a lot of room for improvement, so to speak, and a lot of work to do. Indiana Borough, high walk score, high bike score, and some of our other communities are pretty tight knit. We do promote compact development through the comprehensive plan, and our small towns do lend themselves to active transportation, biking and walking. But we also have a whole lot of rural area in the county. And in terms of planning, there's a lot that goes into this, and I think most on the call understand that. And this is at various levels. As a county, we support trail groups, etc. We also partner with folks like the Conservation District, partner and support their related and ongoing efforts, as well as local municipalities. We do try to provide, kind of be a big brother, so to speak, and share information that comes from other sources like PennDOT and SPC, et cetera. We do try to bridge that gap as best as we can for especially in Indiana County as a county planning agency, and we develop plans. I'm really focusing on the last 10 years here primarily, and then I have been with the planning office for all of those 10 years. And a little bit beyond, and but we're very cognizant of and respecting of the prior planning as being very significant, and all of the planning work that we have done and continue to do is generally inclusive of existing plans reviews and then those types of things. So we did have in the Indiana County Comprehensive Plan, which is still our current plan, we did have related plans that were adopted jointly, with that. In being that we did have a bicycle and pedestrian plan, an open space recreation and parks plan, and a greenways and trails plan. So again, those were all in place, prior to what we've done over the last 10 years, where really things have evolved, become more robust for us in this space, especially in implementation of these plans and what we've adopted since, and as well as programming and promotion, which is included as one of the pillars in our current updated active transportation plan. And really in 2015, there already was a lot going on with various grassroots, folks, different events that were going on, some that have actually happened for decades here, including like Bike to School Day events. At that time, there were some groups doing critical mass rides, which was a popular thing at that time, just trying to, plan events and get people on the streets and show that it's possible, give people confidence, give people an opportunity to get out there and bike. So there were a lot of things going on, but really when the WalkWorks program came to Indiana County as and offered a partnership and an opportunity to really take on in a meaningful way, the issue of obesity, chronic diseases related to it, and to it and to inactivity. Things that are borne out in something like a community health needs assessment. We were one of many counties in the Commonwealth at the time that were contacted, targeted, really as a potential partner in the WalkWorks program through the PA Department of Health. University of Pittsburgh was a big partner at that time. Carol Reichbaum, was running that program at that time, and now it's been Sam Pearson, and many of you have probably worked with and through the PA Downtown Center since. But that really did start to change things, for us in doing the WalkWorks program at that time. To help support the WalkWorks and the ongoing active transportation efforts, we convened for the first time our Indiana County Active Transportation Advisory Committee. We did develop, ultimately over a 3-year period, we developed 9 walking routes throughout the county through the WalkWorks program. And we did host a statewide WalkWorks conference, a whole health conference, which again was kind of a buzzword and still critically important jargon. But that's what we were doing at that time. And then really big ticket item for us was in the sustainability discussion for the our effort for the WalkWorks program. We ended up developing something that I'll elaborate on pretty extensively here, which is the Indiana County Decathlon program. It's not a typical decathlon. It started out as being a series of events, which it still is, and the goal the challenge was to do at least 10 of them, and you would earn prizes. So that's where the name came from, and although it's technically a misnomer, it really has stuck and it has its own identity in Indiana County as the Indiana County Walking Decathlon. There's a Facebook group with over 600 members, and we've actually been doing the decathlon. This is our 10th year, and it allows us to partner with a variety of folks and offer a lot of great opportunities through that program. So I mentioned about the sustainability of the program. So we do these active events from February through May, all the way, all throughout the county. We did have to pivot during COVID. 2020, we were in our third event, I think, that we hosted 3 of our series events and then had to, cancel. But then we pivoted and in 2021 and developed a bunch of self-guided tours. And we host those on our website, and we continue to develop typically at least one self-guided tour each year, because it's just another thing that helps to promote, cultural, historical, recreational assets and opportunities in the county. And maybe some people that don't necessarily want to go do it in the group, although many people do participate in our active events. We also, in continuing to partner with WalkWorks, which we do very much so to this day, we did take advantage of, and I encourage others, if and when it may be available, to take advantage of this funding or similar funding programs. In 2021, we were awarded as a county, I think it was $16,500 for an active transportation plan update. in the Indiana Borough as well. I think they may have gotten 20,000 if I recall. White Township got like 2,500, I think, or so, to do a complete streets policy. All that through, and we had separate but jointly supported applications, which I would recommend that type of thing as well. And ultimately, the borough adopted an active transportation plan. We adopted active transportation plan. And what it's allowed us to do now is, because they're calibrated, to kind of more best practices or inclusive of more current ideas. And as well as one of the pillars, and especially in ours, being programming and promotion, the others being outreach and education, and project development. That's allowed us to lean into things like the decathlon program. In other counties, it may not be a planning office that is the most appropriate organization to be running it. It happened to be for us, but we never could do it on our own. We never would do it on our own. We do it with a lot of partners, a lot of support from a volunteer group that helps us plan it each year. So I don't want to, I don't want to confuse people, or I guess be naive or not share the point that it is a lot of work to do this, and it does take partnership, especially with the type of resource capacity that a lot of us have, I would say. We're in the 10th year now of our Indiana County Decathlon program. Last year, we actually were awarded, we went to Harrisburg in April and received the Governor's Award for Local Government Excellence in Health and Wellness Initiatives for doing the decathlon program. And I didn't mention Indiana Borough. This is actually really important. They deserve a lot of credit for the work they've done in implementing their plan. They do partner with us in a lot of efforts, but the sidewalk program is one thing in particular that they have been taking on. Just an idea of how fortunate we are in Indiana County to have a lot of outdoor recreation opportunities, parks and trails. This doesn't even feature local parks on this map. This is actually county assets. And because we're so fortunate of that, we recognize it and take advantage of it. This actually is an example of one of the prizes or one of the swag items that we gave one year through the program. This was a bandana. And you can see some of the logos, partners on that effort. We do have regional trails that we're very fortunate to have as well. Most of them are part of the Trans-Allegheny Trails in terms of a network, which extends all the way, actually, as a lot of things and the work we do, like for instance with SPC and our regional identity and what we're included in is often southwestern Pennsylvania, and a lot of activity and our focus does go to the south and west. But in fact, a lot of our trail partners and the opportunities related to that do extend to the east for us. And we partner, in the past couple of years, we've really started to partner a lot more with our friends in Cambria County. There already was a Cambria and Indiana Trail Council, so it was only fitting that we took, that we partnered with them and looked to, again, in that plan or in that promotion and programming aspect, we've done some things to leverage the trail network that we have, and a lot of grant funding over the years to help expand this, including some other projects that we'll talk about. I don't know if this was the time I wanted to mention this. I'll say it now then. I didn't mention with the decathlon that we have several metrics that we try to hit every year, 3 different difficulty levels. And when I show you the decathlon flyer here, you'll note these things. Also, we have a countywide approach. So you can't see a lot of the detail on this map, but you can see the various kind of colored squares all the way up to the north, all the way to the south, in both east and west in the county, where we do try to focus each year and make sure we hit a new part of the county, and that we're not just sticking, to the center of the county or only certain communities. So geographic distribution. Another is we try to have age-friendly events, different events that are geared from ages 5 to 95. And, we also try to make sure that at least 3 of our events each year are accessible. And we note those on our flyer as well. So it really is a community based effort that is implemented through our planning office with a lot of great partners and has had impact throughout the whole county. We've had over 2,500 participants over the years, and we were continuing to grow the program prior to COVID. Obviously, then took a hit and took a dip in our numbers, but they've been rising since coming out of that. So the whole presentation here, is about the planning, the people, the programming, the projects. Sorry, I think I just closed out my screen here. Okay, should be back. Sorry. I mentioned earlier the Indiana County Active Transportation Advisory Committee. I'd consider this a best practice, and the actual composition of it might look different depending on where you're at, but you can see the various partners that we work with in Indiana County, and this is not a exhaustive list, but these are the folks that we meet, typically at least quarterly. They help to shepherd the active transportation plan, which again is inclusive of a lot of if not all of what I'm discussing here today. We're also fortunate, and you can see here, SPC is a great partner for us, and then Leanne in particular has really been a great asset to us over the years, and as well as this forum. The student planners, we do run an award-winning student planner program, an internship program through our office. We're fortunate to partner with IUP and get some great students that do help build our resource capacity I always say that we're able to do what we need to do, because of course we are, but we never really have enough capacity to do everything we want to do. And they do help us to do more of what we'd like to do and help to get more of our strategic priorities accomplished. And I mentioned before, other partners, volunteers, advocates, the media has been great to us as well. But again, none of this goes without concerted effort. I mentioned here's some more details about WalkWorks. We developed it or established in 2015. We did in 2023 there were walkability assessments performed on all the routes, actually, in developing the routes. In 2023, we did an inventory, and we're noting signs that do need to be replaced and those types of things, and we're trying to support our community partners in getting that done. And we're also working on, since 2024, we started to do kind of a reinvigoration of the routes, because the idea with these was we worked with the communities, we kind of handed it off to them at some point, and some of them have kept it going more consistently. Others, communities maybe have not. But it's something where, even though the decathlon program has kind of grown so much to have its own identity and appreciation throughout the county, media coverage, et cetera, we don't want it to be lost, that the importance of these routes that were physically in place and available, for walking groups to do on a regular basis, scheduled type of thing, or to do on their own. They're kind of like in-town trails through the built environment, as you can see, with different stops along the way. And they're typically between 1 and 2 miles. Just some other insights here regarding the programming. How have we been so successful? Really being engaging, looking at grants. We have received grants, peer-to-peer grant, maybe I think even C2P2, but we received grants from DCNR, other partners, like I mentioned, WalkWorks, and then also the related efforts of, which I'll get to, projects, right? So none works really without the other, is what we've learned, at least in best practice, that you can't do all the programming and promotion if you don't have things to promote and spaces and places for people to utilize and to visit. At the same time, you can't do any of it without the outreach and education regarding the safety. And, you know, if you just put in projects, maybe you do the safety, but you're not promoting them, maybe then they're not getting used. So that three-pronged approach that's presented in our active transportation plan is very helpful. You see granted, this may not look like Barb Hague that you know today. We've been doing this for a long time. But the picture here in front of the Kiski-Menintis River in Salzburg along the riverfront there, Barb Hague has been our, and I did mention to her that I'd be on today and was checking to see if she's typically on these meetings, but she was unable to be here today. Was going to give her an opportunity and a platform to plug in here, but I told her regardless, I'd give her a shout out. She has been a volunteer for many of the years. We were able to get her some funding deservedly, early on to help develop the Walkworks routes and then starting with the decathlon. But since then, she's just been a volunteer leader, program manager, working with our office to get this stuff done. So she deserves a lot of thanks. And again, things like that are just part of what's necessary for these things to work. You can see some pictures of different events here. No need to go into detail on that. So the decathlon, here's our 10th annual flyer. We did change our logo with the 10 years commemorative for this year. This is the first year we did have to postpone an event. It was dangerously cold on February 7th for what used to be pre-COVID, the Chili Walk, has since been the Hot Chocolate Walk, which is our kickoff event. We've at one point we maxed out 108 attendees out at Blue Spruce Park for the Hot Chocolate Walk a couple of years ago. Just great weather day and other factors that contributed to that turnout. But we typically get great turnout for that event and for some of our other exciting events. Some of the other events we may only get, as you see the walk with the dock picture on the bottom, 15 people or whatever, but it even sometimes 10. But everybody. We try to make the events impactful. We try to make the events educational, informative, exciting to the degree that we can, and all those other metrics that I mentioned about the program. We typically have about 20 or so ideas that we start discussing in August as we begin to meet, and by November we've got a pretty kind of whittled down a little bit based on just feasibility and things like that. And then we vote as a group and then go from there basically and trying to pull everything together. If one event doesn't work, then we'll, pull another event up that maybe didn't make the cut the first time. So we do have a process for developing the program each year, and we have not run out of ideas yet, just anecdotally. I mean, we have a great program year to year. Again, couldn't do it without all the volunteers, which is changed over the time, but typically there's anywhere from 4 to 8 community members that are meeting regularly with us to help develop the program. And some, I don't want to say more dedicated than others, but some that have contributed more or less over the years, and that's okay. That's okay. But we were always welcoming to folks to join our group to help put the program together year to year. We've had our first 2 events this year. We actually had with the rescheduled Hot Chocolate Walk, we still had 57 attendees, which we were very excited about, and it was not dangerous weather that day. And believe it or not, I think it was the first year ever that any other event surpassed that kickoff event, but we had 71 attendees with Dr. Kevin Patrick this past weekend on a beautiful Saturday for a tour inside and outside of buildings throughout downtown Indiana. And 5-hour tour. You're allowed to leave whenever you wanted. And it ended with, I think, 35 people were still there at the end. So that tells you he had a lot to talk about, and some folks were interested the whole way through. So at any rate, current and recent programs and projects, just a listing here, some that we support and partner on, others that we lead. We've taken advantage of things like the TASA program, Transportation Alternative Set Aside, things like the Multimodal Transportation Fund, things like the SMART or the STLC program, et cetera. And I would encourage others to do the same to help on this front beyond just the traditional transportation projects. Really highlighting some of the major projects that have been significant and impactful over the last 10 years. I had the opportunity to lead the effort to complete the extension of the Hoodlebug Trail through IUP campus into downtown Indiana. That project was supposed to be bigger and more robust. We ultimately pivoted when our funding package kind of fell apart for a variety of purposes. But I mean, you got to be prepared for those things. And that's why good planning truly matters. But so does project management, right? So I could talk more about that, but sometimes planners also need to be involved in, if not directly, indirectly, the project management if you're going to implement, which we should be implementing. Some other great photos from, we always get to feed the birds out of our hand as part of that first event. Really a lot of unique things that we've gotten to do with, again, just kind of leaning into this programming and promotion aspect. And it might be different people in different places. Like I said, it just happens to be us leading the way with a lot of partners in Indiana County. Route 22 pedestrian bicycle bridge is under construction. It will be completed here in the spring. And this does extend our regional trail network some, and gets folks with a safe way to cross Route 22 in Indiana County and Burrell Township. And I'll note that one of the supporting factors, because this was a safety improvements project as well as a trail connectivity project that happened to complement each other and be paired together ultimately, both were needed and both would have stood on their own. This project accomplishes both. And my one point I want to make was this in this corridor, a road safety audit was done through SPC in 2010, I believe is maybe the year, roughly. And there were pictures of folks running across the highway and throwing bags over median and things like that. And it was identified as a recommendation, to provide safe passage. And then there was a regional trail connectivity study that was done that looked at different ways to get folks across Route 22, with the really the goal being, though, to extend the trail network. And ultimately what was that 2011 connectivity study that was done by L.R. Kimball recommended an above grade crossing somewhere between the interchange of Route 119, 22, which you see there in the distance, and Walmart, which would be kind of behind you to the right. So as I mentioned, here is one in a series of, we talked about trail gaps. So more work to come and a lot of different funding sources. Ultimately, we were able to take advantage of some CRP urban money rather than some TASA money that we had been awarded, allowing that TASA money to go to different projects and the CRPU money. And we thank our partners, SPC, in that effort. Just to shout out to PennDOT on a great project of expanding Oakland Avenue as part of the TIP. Our Active Transportation Advisory Committee was able to participate in the planning process, and there were, in fact, whether they were ultimately going to be included or not, some of what was discussed and recommended and suggested in those discussions was included. And I'd like to think that there was an impact, positive impact for active transportation purposes on this project. And that we do see people. So now there's actually sidewalk in or bike lane from Rustic Lodge Road the entire way out to Walmart. There still is a gap going into town to be addressed, but this was a really critical project and an intersection at, if you know Indiana, it's where Eaton Park is at Ben Franklin Road, Indian Springs Road, and Oakland Avenue here. This used to be all four corners, no pedestrian crossing. You would have had to go legally cross, and not necessarily safely. You kind of had to go down from the intersection, right? Now you can cross it legally as a pedestrian. You can get through it with a bike, and just a really great and visible improvement. Other ongoing efforts, I'm sure these types of things are happening in your counties or in your communities as well. And it's critical to support their efforts, partner with them to the degree that it's appropriate, and they'll do the same typically. That's generally, I think, what I have. Happy to answer questions and happy to discuss things offline as well.
Great. Thanks so much for that presentation, Josh. Any questions for Josh?
Will Josh be able to share his slides?
100%. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we are recording the meeting as well, which I'll post out on the Active Transportation Research Center. All right. Any other questions for Josh? All right. Hearing none. We'll go ahead and move on to the last item on the agenda.
Leanne, sorry, can I make one comment that I was remiss in not mentioning? That at least for us, working with your elected officials is critical, and they change from time to time, and you need to continue to update them, work with them. Their support is critical. You can't go rogue, so to speak, and that's always evolving. So local or county, or if you're not in government, you got to partner with them.
All right, very good point. Thanks for sharing that, Josh. All right, so we will move on to the roundtable updates, and we'll go ahead and start in the room. And again, I'm starting with you, Greg, if you have anything you'd like to share with the group.
So nice to be first. I'm Greg Boris, and I'm here on behalf of Move Lebo from Mount Lebanon. Move Lebo is a 501c3 organization that focuses on advocacy, action, education, and outreach. In recent months, some of the things that we've been doing, the big thing, I guess, was last week, the active transportation plan for both Mount Lebanon and Dormont, the consultancy that was hired, presented information, and there were public meetings in both Mount Lebanon and Dormont last week where people came out to be able to speak about and what was presented, to react to it, to make suggestions. So Move Lebo helped promote that activity and get people out for that. A lot of what we're doing, I think we're coordinating with Dormont. There's so much, we have curvy streets in Mount Lebanon. Dormont has straight streets. We both have a desire to have an active transportation presence. In terms of action, with the warmer weather, with the snow melting and hopefully staying away for a while, we have many sidewalks that are covered with debris, and we have what I affectionately refer to as our SWAT team that goes out and cleans up sidewalks so that people can navigate through the brush that has been accumulated there. So we're doing that. There was one near my place last year that they did. It was a great activity to be had. Education, we have a quarterly meeting, and each time we have a meeting, there are more and more people, and before you know it, we will fill up the coffee shop that is hosting us. I think we had somewhere close to 30 at our last quarterly meeting on a Sunday morning at 10 a.m. We also we started a book club. Started last month. No, now we're in March. It was January. We did Walkable City by Jeff Speck, and we met at the pub over on West Liberty, in Dormont. And this month we're doing Sidewalks by Valeria Lucelli. We also have had last year I reported that we had a project in the works to envision streets in a way you would like it and use computer software to manipulate it. So it would be much more pedestrian bicycle friendly. And we were going to have that kick off this April, and we are postponing that for probably another year. And finally, we like pubs, and we have a happy hour every third Thursday at the East End Tap Room where people can socialize and talk about what are the things happening in their neighborhood in and around Mount Lebanon, to at least keep people aware of what's going on. So those are some of the things happening in Mount Lebanon with Move Lebo. And it's a young group, 2 years old or so. And if you have questions afterwards, I'll be here eating pizza. So thank you.
All right, I do have one question for you. What is the happy hour? This Thursday.
Third Thursday of the month at the East End Tap Room, right at the top of the T stop, 5:30 to 7 p.m. And then trivia starts if you're into trivia.
All right, thanks, Greg.
You bet.
All right, I will see. No?
Excuse me, Jim Baker, National Pike Trail Council. We're developing rail trail, three of a potential 17 miles connecting state line of West Virginia to Washington, Pennsylvania. So we were recently awarded a DCNR C2P2 grant and for a feasibility study. So we're like on step one of that, forming the steering committee, and we'll be putting bids out for consultants to do that. So I can share my National Pike Trail Council at gmail.com for any potential consultants that would like to bid on that. So yeah, we're excited about it. It's I'll introduce Becky next door to me. She's Washington County Planning Commission, and they've been working very closely with us on supporting that project. So thank you all.
That's great. All right, thanks, Joe.
Something from me.
Chris, you don't want to comment on the complications of GIS and showing?
I mean, they're there, so.
Oh, great.
One name.
I was thinking about that. How many names we have for Right. All right, Milo.
Don't be to me.
Courtney.
Oh, sorry. Just a few things. Some recent grant awards that we've gotten. So we've received $450,000 from DCED Multimodal to move forward with the design engineering on the Hazelwood to Cary project. As I know, there's a bit of a CSX thing, but the conversations are going exceedingly well. So hopefully some news about that in the next few weeks that will come public. The next thing up, we received funding in partnership with the Port of Pittsburgh to do a recreational impact study of the Allegheny River from the Kinzua to the Point to help emphasize the impact of our rivers on our communities, especially from the recreational standpoint. So we're really excited. We got the funding from DCNR. It's going to be what they say the first impact study of a river recreationally in the state. So we're happy to set that precedent. So we'll be working with SPC on that as well as the members of STAR. I think that's what we're still calling it. And then just the last thing, we last week submitted a build application for the Erie to Pittsburgh and PA Wiles for design, engineering, planning of all gaps remaining within those systems. We did that in partnership with SPC, the Oil Region Alliance, Pennsylvania Environmental Council, Friends of the Riverfront, and the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail Alliance. So we appreciate SPC support on that. Please contact your legislators and make sure they fund it.
Yeah. All right.
Just throw that in there.
Soccer. And the rest there in the back.
Something from me.
All right. We'll go up the wall and then up the table. So Chris.
Hi, folks. I came in a little bit late. Chris Cornbran with the Pennsylvania Environmental Council. Just a couple of things to share. I alluded to it earlier, but we are in the preliminary planning stages for the 2026 Western Pennsylvania Trails and Greenways Summit. The last one, which was the first one, I believe, was held in Clarion in 2024. this is sort of an outgrowth of a couple other summits, including the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail Alliance Summit, Laurel Highland Summit. We'll be getting the save the date out very soon, but you can expect a pretty good couple of days in Indiana, PA on the 26th and 27th of August. A couple other bits and pieces. We are also just getting underway with an assessment of the Trans Alleghenies corridor. Most of the other large regional corridors that make up the Industrial Heartland Trails Coalition and some other regional visioning projects have received kind of a full compiled assessment. The Trans Alleghenies is one that hasn't really had the same treatment yet. So we're just starting to put some of the pieces into play for that project. What else? Turtle Creek. Turtle Creek. We are wrapping up some design and engineering work in the Turtle Creek corridor, the 9-mile stretch between Cary Furnace and Trappers. That's kind of a partner project with Friends of the Riverfront and the Redevelopment Authority of Allegheny County. It's going pretty well. It's really exciting stuff. Knocking on wood when it comes to any railroad type conversation, but positive, optimistic stuff.
All right. Thanks for sharing, Bruce.
I came late also. I'm Jeff Webster with the Pittsburgh Teachers Collaborative. This is my first meeting here, so just here to kind of learn what you're doing. Most interested in work related to Vision Zero and trying to eliminate all harm in travel, and also coordination between municipalities, counties, and utilities to be able to create the conditions where we have more resources to be able to get to Vision Zero. So thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. Dave?
Dave Totten, most of you know me. I just came mostly to steal my friends and to introduce you to Alexandra.
All right.
It's been with us for about 6 months. And, it's kind of Bailey Mike.
And you're with?
HDR.
HDR. Alexandra?
Oh, nice to be here. This was a great first meeting. Yeah, I transferred from the HDR office in Orlando. Previously worked in Pittsburgh and lived here, so happy to be back.
All right, great. Well, welcome. And we'll start here with you, Carrie, and go down the inside table and then jump to online.
Nothing else for me, Dylan?
A couple of small things. The Scaleville Urban Coalition has been doing more walking than biking this winter. It's had a couple of walks and is trying to warm up to merge those with some safe sidewalk audits. And the other thing is that in the city of Pittsburgh, many of the parks, half a dozen or so, have friends groups. A friends group for Shoney Park is just being formed. And that will, I think, provide an impetus for more attention to the trails of the park.
That's for me.
Trail Volunteer Fund, noteworthy project with 1 million volunteers should suffer for lack of tools and materials. Send us an application, clearworking.com.
Sorry. Evident.
So we have a road safety audit coming up on National Pike, US 40 in Fayette County. Trying to identify potential pedestrian and bicycle activity on the corridor. We've noticed that there has been some overtime from some of our key person interviews. So just going to be out in the field here over the next month and 17th or so of March, 18th of March, and do field view and check out what we see out there. But hoping to make some recommendations on, connectivity between parcels and things like that down there in Fayette County.
All right. And then we just finished up kind of like a part 2 in Beaver.
In Beaver, yes, we did. Yeah. So State Road 68 in Beaver County, we did a safety audit on a section that went to downtown Beaver and then continued that from downtown Beaver to Bridgewater. So the full corridor of 68 between the 376 interchange and the overpass, the rail overpass into Bridgewater, where everything kind of comes together, was safety of pedestrian and bike safety audit, as it was a corridor that was on the VRU list for PennDOT. So,
all right, thanks for sharing. Nancy?
Sure. I'm just going to piggyback off of what Evan was talking about. The RSA for National Pike came out of a request from VHB, who won a research grant through TRB to reevaluate how road safety audits are being done across the United States. And so this is a really big deal. SPC and SEMCOG, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, were both picked as guinea pigs. Southeast Michigan is going to be the urban environment, and we are a representative of the rural. And so the actual road safety audit will be conducted mid-March. There's a whole lot of layers that are going into this, such as, do you conduct these pre-development, during construction, post-development, then what are the results way after that? And so to get the most bang for the buck. So that research is going to finish, and it'll be published, hopefully, and adopted by Federal Highway in October.
Okay, great. Thanks for adding on that. You want to just point out the acronyms VHB and TRB.
Oh, Manas, it's a consultant. They're consulting firm.
Okay. And then the TRB.
Oh, Transportation Research Bureau.
Okay. I know most of us know all these acronyms.
You're right. I should have, yeah.
So, I mean, we can have a little conversation. That's right. Sometimes I have. All right, great. Let's see online. I'll just go around the screen, and if you have nothing to share, you can say pass. All right, Keegan Sounds. All right, we'll move on to pass. Okay, pass. All right, safety. Accepting.
Hi, Seth Davis, PRT. I just wanted to plug the ongoing engagement on the next round of our updated network. So that's all out there on engage.ride.prt.org. And yeah, that's all for now. Lots coming down the pipe. But again, yeah, engage.rideprt.org has all of our projects that are going to be soliciting public engagement and just informational purposes as well. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Seth. Great.
Nothing at this time.
Great. We'll move on to John Stephen.
Yes, good morning, Rachel Carson Trails Conservancy. Over the winter, we've convened a few small grassroots planning initiatives around trail nodes, if you will. One, maybe Bradford Woods last November, Springdale over the winter, focusing on the Riddle Run area, the valley that's upstream from Tawny Run. So it's not quite the data center area, but it is. Rachel Carson owns a lot of property up there, so we're looking at how we can promote community trails, connections, and other assets connecting to the Rachel Carson Trail. And also, earlier in February, we had a meeting in the Highland Park, Aspinwall, Sharpsburg area. There's a lot of open space, green space opportunities there, and promoting, trying to get the different stakeholders together to see how they can make some important connections. And we continue to work with Indiana Township and Fox Chapel in the dream of connecting the Allegheny River to Heartwood Acres and the Rachel Carson Trail, working with Beechwood Farms. And there has been some progress with trail crossings of some of the streets up there, Dorseyville. So there'd be a safe crossing right into Beechwood Farms, and then Harts Run on the other end. So little slow but sure progress on some hiking trail improvements on the North Hills. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for sharing that update, John. And we'll move on to Madison.
Yes, thank you.
Molly Crow.
Pass, thank you.
Great.
Great.
I have nothing to share at the moment. Thanks, Leanne.
Great. We'll move on to Katie.
I think Courtney covered everything we had. Thank you.
Great. Brandon Leach.
Pass, thank you.
Mary Ann. Great. Hearing none, we'll move on to Ernie.
Pass. Thank you.
Okay, how about Ian?
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to mention that Allegheny County is doing a full update of its comprehensive plan, which has been called Allegheny Places in the past, but it's been rebranded as Allegheny Forward. So if anybody has not been plugged into that yet, please just Google Allegheny Forward and you will find the county's Engage page for that project. If you go to the webpage and you scroll down on the left, there is a link to a short survey about themes. You can also put some pins on maps of ideas you might have. And I also wanted to highlight that next, I believe it's next Wednesday, March 11th, there is a virtual public meeting. So you will also find a link to register for that meeting as well. We're, I believe, wrapping up this first phase of public involvement or public engagement at the end of April. So yes, please help out if you haven't already.
Great, thanks for that update, Ian. Avis.
Yes, I just wanted to share on behalf of the Oakland collaborative stakeholders who've been working with DOMI that there is an upcoming public meeting to present the South Neville Boundary Streetscape Improvement Plan. This is for pedestrian and bike safety improvement along the corridor. Public meeting is being scheduled for March the 25th. More details to come. I can actually drop the Engage page link into the chat for folks to want to get more information on.
Yep, and that'd be great. Thanks, Mavis. All right, we have Beaver County.
Yep, no update.
Okay. And Chocolate. You have anything to add to what Ian said? Great. Okay, so here, Ned, I'd like to thank everybody for sharing the updates, the roundtable updates, whether you're online or in person. A very important part of these meetings. Sometimes it seems like it takes a lot of time, but that's how SPC lives in 21 and also how you can all network with each other and get ideas and work on other projects. So future meeting dates are listed at the bottom of the agenda. And with that, we'll adjourn and the pizza should be in the kitchen. And if not, it will be here soon. Great. Thanks for all.